Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where last episode we made a few alterations up here. We've reduced the mass, and that should help our lifting surfaces in theory. That'll also mean we get a little further on this stage. Let's see how that works. We're getting very close on dialing this in. I'm quite certain on that. All we need to do is get this thing actually semi-flight worthy. Emphasis on semi. So we're going to put this on a heading of 75, and we're going to go to like 60 degrees on the pitch, and let's accelerate time up, and let's see how this goes. Now, I know that previously we were not pitching like this. We were instead going straight up. I wanted to see how this goes. We definitely see some wacky oscillations occurring. Okay, we lose attitude. We want to hang out here. Okay, noted. So that is interesting for sure. Let's retry that and let's launch it straight up this time. I just wanted to see exactly how that would fly. Okay, so straight up we go. We're going to want to set our heading to be 75 degrees. There we go. Now the question is, do we have a big oscillation as we go straight up? Yes. Does it put us retrograde again? Yes. Okay, so now the question is, well, you see, we're starting to go down now. So that loses us a lot of momentum. But it is recoverable in theory. I think the real problem, though, is I would like to have these be disabled until we get to a certain stage. I don't know if that's possible. However, we did get enough altitude here, so we need to bring this over to 0 degrees. There we go. And it looks like we are slightly off on our heading, so I'd like to position ourselves out over here. Okay. I would also like to rotate us a bit, like so. Looks like we're gaining too much altitude, and I don't want to gain quite as much speed either. So I want to keep us below like 1,400 meters per second. I'm bringing our apoapsis down right now, and we're currently at 15% fuel. So I don't know if we have enough fuel, but we can certainly determine if this thing can glide. We'll see how that goes. Now, I did actually add fuel out over here, and this is at 100% fuel. So apparently fuel is not flowing from the wing to this tank. We'll see if it starts pulling after this tank runs out of fuel. But that is 1.17 tons, which is 1.17 tons per wing, which is going to be an extra like 30% fuel over what we've got right now. So that is definitely noted. For the moment, I want to continue to attempt to glide here. I'm going to put us at a pitch of about 5 degrees, attempting to generate some lift here as we go down. So I don't think we're going to have enough overall speed here. And we could go to a much more efficient engine here, which is probably something we want to do. If we're going to remain in the atmosphere, we can probably stick to like a jet engine in this stage or something along those lines. We just have to get up high enough, right? So you can see here we are currently pitching down. We are picking up a lot of speed, actually. And we're attempting to pitch up at this moment. We're slowing down, and let's see how that heat is holding. Heat is dropping, so heat isn't a problem with that setup. Okay. However, attitude is a big problem right now. So we're currently flipped upside down, and we just cannot... Hang on, we almost nosed up there. That's intriguing. We were incredibly close to nosing up. We needed to slow down a little more there, but that's interesting. So I want to look at what our current mass and lift ratio is looking like. Or rather, mass and lift positions. So let's take a quick peek here. So I want to view center of mass and center of lift. They are very close. So this indicates that we need to move these wings back. That's not updating now. Okay. Move the wings back to be about like that. Then I want to drag the fins back to be about here. And I'm interested in, again, changing out this engine, in theory, for some sort of a jet engine. We don't have a lot of those, but we can hop into the tech tree and think about grabbing one. So that would definitely make things a lot easier for us. So this would be propellers here. That's still propellers. Jet engine size, giving us access to the Minotaur engine. Okay. So the main problem with the Minotaur engine and jet engines in general, or at least the jet engines that we have here, we can grab that. But the main problem with it is that we want to attach it here, right? And we do have intakes, so in theory, that's fine. The main problem is that we would like to have... I guess it can attach like that. Okay. So that's noted. And then the Minotaur engine is significantly longer. That's probably a little too long. So we're going to need to have an intake here. Where do we want to have the intakes? I think that we're going to do the intake... That can only go in the front? It cannot attach radially. Okay. So I think we're going to have a significant issue if we were to, like, attach these guys, like, on the wing or something. I think that they're going to have a heat issue. So as a hypothetical, attaching it something like that, right? I have a feeling they're going to definitely have some problems. We could give them some heat shield, but I think that's still going to be problematic. So these would need to be, instead of Carolox, jet fuel. And then this would also need to be jet fuel, like that. And then back here, we wouldn't really do much of anything, right? So the question is, would we be able to take off with this? So with the altitude being... Okay. It would be quite low. We'd have a lot of burn time. No doubt about that. So what's this bypass ratio do? The amount of air that bypasses the core. This can greatly increase fuel efficiency. To be honest, I don't think we need fuel efficiency for this. So that's fine. Will that drop our thrust to weight? Yes, it will. Okay. So the compression ratio is 7.5. This will increase fuel efficiency and thrust to a point. Okay. Looks like this is about the ideal location, at least at sea level. So shroud length will... This is cosmetic only. Okay. The afterburner throttle is 80%. That's fine. The shroud curvature is cosmetic only. We can have afterburner, yes or no, and we haven't unlocked afterburners yet. That's fine. So I think we're just going to want to increase the size of this a little bit. This is 140% right now. And that would put us, I think we want to be at somewhere around 2 thrust to weight ratio. So maybe just having it at around 100% size. That should be reasonably okay. So now if we look at the mass to center of lift, that's okay, assuming we generate enough lift. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to boost this thing up and get it up high enough, then turn it and get it going sideways, right? And fly it at low altitudes with the jet engine. That's the idea. So let's see. This is probably going to be too wide to launch now, isn't it? Yeah, by 2 meters. So that's understood. I would rather have these be underslung. That's wild. Okay, we could probably change the way that the wing is being mirrored. Yeah, that would be the way to do it. Okay, so now we would need to rotate these guys to be facing about like that. But then we'd want them to be like over here, right? Not that far over. Maybe like here. Even that's a little too close in. So about here or so? That's slightly too close in still. So about here. That's decent. Okay, let's check our staging. This is still saying it's too wide, so let's just bump this down. Yeah, it'll have to be like that. Okay, so that seems fine. Now, staging. Let's see what we've got here. So the mage engine, the interstage, and these engines fire. That's fine-ish. I'd like to combine together the parachute and landing legs. So that's okay. Cool. So let's see how this goes. We still need to be able to pull up with it, right? But I'm hoping that having it be like this will be a little bit better. Now, the weight is going to be a little bit offset here, but we're just going to go straight up for now, and let's see how that lifts. Definitely a little bit slower. No doubt about that. Let's see if we have that oscillation start up. I would really like to be able to... I guess we could deactivate the wings, couldn't we? If we do that, we apparently flip like this. Hang on, let's bring this back and deactivate them from the very get-go. That will deactivate the control surfaces on them, which would ideally bring it down to... essentially just make it into a large fin, right? Apparently we immediately lose attitude and start tipping like that. This is because of the weight on these engines, I think. So we've got essentially offset thrust there. So we do need to compensate for that thrust, which is what the control surfaces here are intended to do. This didn't actually maintain attitude at 60. Okay. That's certainly noted. Okay. Well, we need to lift our altitude up quite a lot. And we need to keep our speed relatively slow as well. But you can see here we're beginning to oscillate. And this is because the atmosphere is still fairly thin here, and we're moving pretty quickly. But we'll see how that goes. So far, it seems to be under control-ish. So we're punching up to about 30-kilometer apoapsis right now. That seems reasonably fine. This is now 40-kilometer apoapsis. Okay, let's see what happens if we bring our pitch over. It's relatively under control. I didn't do that rotation, by the way. It did that itself. I'm going to do this rotation. I'd like to flip this all the way around. Ooh, hang on. It didn't like that. Okay. Well, we currently have an apoapsis of what? 115 kilometers? Sure. So let's bring this guy right on over, continue to burn that last little bit. And now, of course, our jet engines at this altitude are going to be quite ineffective. So that is noted. I want to rotate us around like so and get us basically vertical here. Okay, something kind of like that. And then, of course, we're going to be dropping down. So we're going up pretty high. So our altitude might be too high here, and that is definitely a concern. We didn't have a major issue there with the rotation, although I do notice some clipping with our engines here. That's absolutely understood. So let's warp forward and just get up to our apoapsis. And start going back down. Okay, so we're going to be entering the atmosphere here shortly. You can see we're picking up speed, and we don't really want to be picking up speed. So I want to put our nose up at around like 5 or 10 degrees here. We're going to try to convert as much of this vertical speed into lateral speed with our lift as we can. But we need to get quite low in the atmosphere here to get this to actually happen. And the question is heating. I think we went up too high. But we'll see what this feels like. So we can see we're accelerating, but we're not going that fast. We didn't pick up all that much horizontal speed, which was kind of the goal here. We weren't intending to pick up crazy amounts of vertical speed. We can see here we're trying to nose down, and that is expected. Okay, we are nosed down now, and we are picking up speed, but we're nosing up from the directionality here. So that's okay. Do these engines gimbal, I wonder? Okay, we see our heat dropping. Our speed is dropping. I'm going to fire up these engines at about 10 kilometers, and we'll see what that feels like. Okay, firing up the engines. The jet engines should be active right now. They are indeed. And the question is, can we pull out of this dive? And the answer is no. However, that was a much sharper, steeper ascent than I would have liked. We dropped quite rapidly there, quite sharply. And that's understood. Okay, I don't want to save this flight. Hang on. We're just going to undo and exit. The main issue here is still one of attitude. So I'm wondering, can we get gimbaling on these engines? Is that a thing that can happen? I don't think so in these engines, is my theory. But we didn't have overheat issues. One thing we could do is we could put in some drogue chutes that are intended to be re-entry chutes. So what that would end up meaning is that we would put in drogue chutes to help us slow down in those areas and get this a little bit more under control. So that would be a drogue chute like here. I would do like 2 of them. So we would mirror the drogue chute in radial like this. And I would want them to be on the back, actually, not on the front. So we would put the drogue chutes about here, like this, and we would put that in radial mode is probably fine. And then we would just put them about there or so. So the idea behind them is that they are going to auto-cut. And we would want them to fire when? We would want them to fire sometime around here would be the answer. Okay, let's save that and see how that goes. So we're going to lift this guy straight up until our apoapsis is high enough. So we're going to set this pitch to 90 and the heading to 75. And we're going to lift off here. We're in 2x right now. We'll see if we flip. If we do, then the flip is probably due to the time acceleration. Okay, I'm going to take us out of time acceleration. It looked like we were about to flip. So let's just keep punching up here. Our apoapsis is reasonably high. So that seems good. We're going to start heading over once our ground level is somewhere around maybe like 20 kilometers. We're definitely calming here. So let's bring our pitch over and go to maybe about 30 degrees. I want to continue to punch up this apoapsis, and we're a little concerned about our overall altitude right now because we need to go another 20 kilometers here. Okay. So that looks fine for now. We're going to bring this over to a pitch of 0. In theory. I'm just going to burn that last little bit of fuel. Let's get rid of that. And next up is going to be the drogue chutes. So let's orient ourselves here. Let's make sure that we are in a decent orientation here and a reasonable orientation here of 5 or 10 degrees. I kind of liked 10 there. And let's get our orientation this way set up properly. There we go. So the idea behind this is the drogue chutes are going to slow us down significantly as we re-enter. This time we have quite a lot of additional horizontal speed and not as much vertical speed. So that is noted. If we can get to the position where this noses up and is controllable, then it's over. That is the entire game right there. That's the whole thing. So that looks good. We're currently heading up towards the apoapsis. So we're not expecting to be forcing a nose down just yet. You can see our vertical speed is decreasing and our lateral speed is decreasing as well. This is happening, of course, due to drag. So that seems fine for the moment. The main question is, can this generate enough lift to fly? And we'll see. So we're currently heading downward at this point, and you can see our surface velocity is increasing. We are going to be keeping an eye on our temperature levels, which are currently dropping. Okay, cool. We're not having heat issues, and I wouldn't expect heat issues at this suborbital velocity. What we need to do, of course, is we need to get ourselves a bit of re-entry. So I want to take a look at these parachutes. So we can see that the max speed is 1 kilometer per second. We're nearly at that speed right now. So that's noted. We are over the speed of, the safe deployment speed of this particular set of parachutes. I do want to yaw us over this way a little bit. There we go. And we should start to slow down eventually. And then once we hit 1 kilometer per second, we're going to deploy the drogues. They will be cut, and we're going to try to fly at that point. You can see that we are nosing down at this moment. We are attempting to compensate for that. But we're going to be entering into a dive here, and there's not a lot that we can do about that. You can see our lateral speed is decreasing right now, and our vertical speed is increasing. Our overall speed is decreasing. Okay. So that's looking good. We are attempting to pull up out of this dive, but the question is, what happens when we deploy these chutes? So, we are below the max speed as of now. Chute deployment. Okay. Drogue chutes broke because of too much stress. Apparently the repack isn't working. Okay, so the drogue chutes did not work. I think we deployed them too fast there. We're going to have to try that one more time. So we'll wait until we're a little slower this time. We definitely need to slow down a lot, and that is indeed the idea. So we're going to keep this at a 90-degree pitch and a 75-degree heading for now. Let's boost up a bit, and we're just going to have to wait a bit later on that drogue chute deployment. We need to slow down more. I'm wondering if we can use the drogue chutes to bring ourselves down instead of this guy. I don't know. That'll be interesting. So we're waiting until this calms, and then we're going to start heading over. It'll calm shortly. Okay. It's relatively calm now. So we're going to start heading over to about, actually 30 degrees worked fairly well. We're off axis a little bit here, that's noted. Let's just position ourselves upside down for now. That'll be okay. Okay, I did not do that rotation, but sure. And we're just going to continue to gain altitude here. I don't think we have enough altitude this time. No. We can try to gain some additional altitude with our jet engines, but we're too high up. So that clearly indicates that we need to not go over quite as far. That's fine. So we're going to set this at 75 degrees for our heading, and we're going to keep our pitch at 90. We need more altitude than what we had there. So it's not a lot more altitude, to be clear. We needed just a little more altitude. I still don't know technically if this thing can fly. That's the core issue right now. I suppose we could try testing it with just this. It should lift off vertically if we had enough airflow, which would be the concern. I'm not sure if we would have enough airflow to do that. Well, let's let this settle for now. Bring our apoapsis right on up. I'm going to wait until we are actually at 20 kilometers this time and then bring us over. That seems to be the better way to go. We just need a lot of vertical speed here. So we are at 17 kilometers, 18, 19, and 20. So this time I'm going to put us at about that 30-degree marker. Now I want to bring us all the way over to... Come on, let me grab it. There we go. All the way over to 0. That was awkward. But there we go. We're now at 0 and getting horizontal speed. Okay. Let's jettison that and bring ourselves right on back, flipping it over. Hang on. Our jet engine was actually running, remarkably. And I want to put us once again at about that 10-degree marker. And I doubt we can hold attitude, but what we need to do at this point is we need to just get out of this dive safely, right? So the max stress on these chutes, that was the problem. I wonder if that means that we should actually deploy them now, which would be kind of a weird time to do it. I've deployed them, so they won't automatically deploy here until 14.5 kilometers. Okay, that's noted. What's the safe deployment speed on this chute? 320 meters per second. Okay. Sure. I'm just thinking here. There are ways to do this, but the main question is one of lift, right? Let's actually bring this back, and I want to know about the lift of this. So I'm going to remove this section, and we're going to put this out on the alley pad, and we're going to see if we can fly just this. I don't know. This will be interesting. Okay. Well, that's definitely intriguing. It didn't like taking off like that. But what we can do is we can... The reason it didn't like taking off like that was because of the offset thrust, but I also didn't set this guy, right? So let's see what happens if we do that with our control surfaces working semi-correctly. Now, the main problem with this, of course... Okay, that's the same issue where it tries to do that number. That's because of the lack of airspeed. So the main problem with this design as it is that we're not going to have a significant amount of land speed, for one thing. But for another thing, well, yeah, the amount of speed is going to be the issue. So it can take off vertically. We know it has a lot of thrust offset. I actually wanted to undo that. And I want to put this out on... Undo. There we go. I want to put this out on a quick test pad here. So that's going to be something like... where are we? Okay. Landing gear here, and then a landing gear like out over here. It's going to be mildly awkward, but... rotating it about like that. And then we're going to need to, of course, change this fin, which is fine. I'm going to make that be disabled. There we go. Now, these landing gear back here, we're going to have to change the size on. But I want to know if this thing can even fly. Okay, so I'm going to want it to be something kind of like this or so. We'll see how that goes. Well, we're going to put this out on the Juno Village runway. What are the issues? It's too tall for the selected launch location? Right, because this is intended to be in plane orientation. Okay. Now we're going to put this out on the Juno Village runway. Still too tall. Wow. Okay. We don't have access to the alley runway here. So we're going to have to put this out on the Juno Village pad, which we can't do either. Okay, we're going to have to put this on the alley pad and take off on the, well, out this direction. I'm not sure if we can do that. I'd like to set our heading out. Well, we could try to take off this way. Things are going to be a little awkward, but we can actually yaw over here reasonably well. We could also just yaw all the way around here and take off on the flats. And that may not be a bad idea. Let's actually do that. Okay, so that is all fine. And let's start going this direction, and we'll see. Okay, so this guy definitely likes to flip a lot. No doubt about that. So that needs to be worked on, for sure. We are going to be working on this section of it. I want to make sure that this flies okay before we proceed. So this is obviously going to be a problem with our... Yep, that's the problem right there. So you can see that this is a little higher here. So I think that these wings need to be moved down slightly. So the question is, how do we do that? But it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we'll have this figured out. So that should be good. We can make the wings narrower, but I don't think that that's actually useful. So I'm not going to do that for now. Now, I'm going to save this separately as the Barge Lander plane. There we go. And we're going to put the interstage and the other stage back on eventually, but I want this to be a little bit more optimized. So we're going to need to work on the flight characteristics of this. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.